Guest speakers. Tonight, our guest speakers will present on a topic of self-care for caregivers. I want to acknowledge our president, Trudy Logan, and our Z Hope coordinator, Mikkel Moultrie. My name is Roz Green, and I will be your host for tonight. Welcome. We honor our 5 founders of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Without them, there would be no us. And they are pictured on this slide, as you can see. Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated was founded on January 16, 1920 on the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C. The Epsilon Omega Zeta chapter hosting this program was chartered on May 4th, 1958 in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. As you read our vision and program initiatives on this slide, you can see that our focus tonight will be on the program initiative of caregivers. And these are some statistics about autism. These statistics were obtained from the CDC. If you are not familiar with autism, I just want to give you a very general description that autism refers to a broad range of concerns that can include social skills, repetitive behaviors, and communication. Neurodiverse individuals are supported by caregivers who have unique challenges and unique concerns. Tonight, we have 2 guest speakers that will speak around taking care of yourself as a caregiver. So we like to welcome Sabre Townsend and Carla Glover. Professionally, Sabra is the Director of Operations at the Center for Autism and Neurodiversity at Jefferson Health, and her experiences have included the Director of Adult Advocacy, Consultant, and Field Organizer. Personally, Sabra is the mom of Brandon, who is a young man with autism. He is working and thriving in Philadelphia. Carla Glover is our second guest speaker for tonight. Professionally, Carla is a fieldwork supervisor for student teachers at Arcadia University and has served as a teacher and administrator in the School District of Philadelphia for 32.5 years. Personally, Carla is an active board member for the Daniel E. Rump II Foundation and is an avid sports fan. Ladies, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Sabra, I believe you are able to share screen.
I do see the green share screen button, so yes. First of all, thank you, Roz, and thank you all for inviting me here this evening to present to you. I am honored and humbled as a result of your invitation. Second, let me say that my son gives his permission for me to talk about him. He's 26 and he's well, yes, he's 26, he's grown, but you know, if you all have children, any of you that have children, there'll always be your babies. But I do have his permission to talk about him. I would hope that this evening would be interactive. If you would like to turn your screen on and I can see your lovely faces, that would be wonderful. Rosalind, would you like to take questions at the end or throughout? I would love it to be interactive. I have some questions and ideas for you. And I do have some resources at the end of the presentation. So if you feel free to ask questions as you have them, or put them in the chat if that's easier for you. And I'll see if I can recognize what's in the chat and discuss that as well. And someone, please give me a time. How long do I need to? When do I need to stop talking? Because I can stop talk about autism all night long.
Thank you. So you'll have 15 minutes. So your
Okay.
time will officially end at 7:41.
Okay. All righty. So, wave at me, or, put a hand up if I'm going over that time. So I've presented this this topic in person. This is my first time doing it on Zoom. So I do tend to be interactive in person, but I have a question for all of you. I have a couple of questions for all of you. If you could either unmute and let me know, or put in the chat, how many of you either have a person in your family, be it your child, nephew, niece, cousin, on the spectrum? That's the first question. And the second question is, do they live with you, or are they somewhere out, either in the Philadelphia area or in other parts of the country? And I'll tell you why I think that's important in a minute. So how many of you have a relative, or, okay. All right. Or if you could go down to the reactions, if your picture isn't showing, and put a hand up if you have a relative that's on the spectrum. So maybe about half of you. I see hands. Okay. And then, so for those of you who don't have a relative, I would ask, if you have any questions, please ask them. We need to have autism awareness in the community for everyone. Rosalind did a great job of outlining autism. I have some resources that I can provide to you. And so I was wondering if everyone is in the Philadelphia area, the Pennsylvania area. I have some local resources. And if you have a family member or a loved one who's outside of this area, I can point you to some national resources and give you some tips and hints on where to go for information regarding autism and autism services. But in terms of self-care, for the people that you know on the spectrum, what about them brings you joy? And I'd love to have someone interact with an answer there. What about your loved one brings you joy? Sure, Valerie.
My niece is always happy. She's always active. She wants to try everything. But when she don't want to try it, she shuts down. Like when she came down to visit, she lives in New York. When she came down to visit, she didn't understand that the frog was a frog in a tank. So she figured out how to put her hand in the tank because she wanted to play with him. So she brought him up to me and said, see, I got a friend. Just her whole demeanor is nice. She don't care about anything. She's just a pleasant child. But when she gets angry, she shuts everybody down. It don't make a difference if it's her mom, her dad. She just shuts everything down. And she just sits there and cries.
Oh.
But she's precious.
I wish I could just shut people down I didn't like, or situations I didn't like. There's a freedom in that. There's absolutely a freedom in that. Is there one other example of what about your loved one brings you joy on the spectrum? Fonda? Is it Fonda?
Yes. Hello. Thank you for doing this program, and thank you,
Sure.
Roz, for putting this program together. But I'm a special education teacher, and I've been a special education teacher the majority of my life, 32 years, and I've worked with students on the spectrum. And I can tell you every day is a new journey. Every day is a new day. And I just enjoy working with students, and I enjoy trying to get into that mind and that head to see what they're thinking. So I just like the journey that we're on.
Okay. So the reason why I asked that question as I go to pull up to share screen, the reason why I asked that question is because when my son was little and I would meet to pick him up at daycare, and this is not any I'm not casting aspersions on daycare workers. They are some of the hardest workers. They have a room full of little ones, so God bless them. But this particular person uh, would meet me with all of the things that Brandon had done wrong.
Mm.
Everything that he missed, every, thing that didn't go well, so that I had to have the conversation and say, I do appreciate that you let me know all of the challenges of the day. Can you start with one thing that was joyful? One thing, start there. And then tell me, he took his socks off or whatever the other issues were. So that's where I start in terms of self-care, recognizing what is joyful. And that's a mindset, right? That's Brandon, in case you can't tell which one is mine, who has his hand on one of his little pals' head, right? Um, this brought me joy. And when I'm having those frustrating days as a caregiver, I remember this picture. He didn't quite know what he was supposed to do in terms of his pals, but he knew he was supposed to grab them somewhere, and that was the obvious place to grab him. He also was taller than most, and you'll see that in a minute. That was him as a baby. This is him now. He was born, I have his permission, as I said, to talk about Brandon. He was born with a very rare physical condition. So as a caregiver, I had to make sure that his health care was taken care of. His physical condition is very rare. It's called prune belly syndrome, was actually why he was diagnosed with autism earlier, because I was going back and forth to the hospital with him. This is him recently during the pandemic with the mask on. And in terms of caregiving, I'm jumping ahead from when they're little because I wanted to ask the ages of the folks that that are on the spectrum. When they're little, it's all about their health care, their education, their ability to interact with the world. As they get older, from a caregiving perspective, you have to take care of yourself, but taking care of yourself also means looking forward to them being as independent as they are able. So keep that in mind. And this is also a piece in terms of caregiving. The world sees my Brandon, my 26-year-old, who had a seizure his first day of life. What the world sees now is a 6'2" African-American male. So on a daily basis, when I don't have eyesight on my Brandon, my heart is in my throat. And I don't mean that, say that like parents of children and young adults on the spectrum, and I have the reference information to if you're interested in reading more in depth, have the stress levels as high as soldiers in combat. And that was measured not only by interview, but by cortisol levels. If any of you are in the health field, cortisol is what happens when you're anxious. Your cortisol levels raise in your body. So caring, and this isn't to say that caring for typical children or caring for children with, other different physical or medical challenges is not stressful, because it is. But the research has shown that caring for children on the autism spectrum is an extremely stressful job. And what I tell parents when they, and caregivers and aunties and grandmoms and neighbors, when they're caring or working with a child or a young adult on the spectrum, it's a full-time job that you will never get paid for. So caring for yourself is just as key as making sure that your loved one is cared for. And I think of my mother, my sweet mom, who's no longer with us, who wore a t-shirt that said, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So the little things that you do, even if it's 5 minutes a day, if you start your day with devotion, if you start your day with quiet time, if you start your day with, a meditation, try to do that on a daily basis in terms of your self-care and what you do for you. The other piece is setting boundaries in terms of what you do and how you do it. I've had to say nicely many times that no is a complete sentence. You can't do everything. That's my Brandon the year he graduated from high school in Philadelphia. If you're in Philly, there still is a high school named Hill Freeman, and he graduated in the first graduating class. Now, let me step back with that note. As you put your youngster through school, be it public, charter, private, boarding school, wherever they are, that piece of you managing that, again, in terms of self-care, make sure that you have a filing system, a filing cabinet somewhere where all your documentation goes, because your job, and I hate to describe it as a job, but it is your job to make sure that they are taken care of in a way that honors their individuality. So you have IEPs, you may have medical records, you may have after school, you may have employment, pay stubs, you may have college records. But to keep yourself from going crazy with all of that, think about their independence. Make sure they know where those documents are. If they're capable of understanding that, have them be a part of that. So all the pressure isn't on you. In terms of boundaries, have the conversation about what some of your boundaries are before you have to enforce those boundaries. I mentioned that Brandon had a very rare physical condition and he was diagnosed with autism. And there were times, and I didn't start out a single parent, but the divorce came along and I have full custody of Brandon. Working full-time, the full-time job of a parent, I had to have a conversation with the school to say, when he's there with you, you have him. Now, I come from a family of teachers, so I'm not saying that I'm not parenting him. But you calling me if there's an issue, unless you're calling me from the ER and telling me to meet you there, or unless there's some police involvement, don't call me. Because what can I do over the phone? So that was a boundary that I had to learn to set. Now, did you hear me on the front end saying that when he's out of my eyesight, I have my heart in my throat? But I had to make sure that I was comfortable with setting that boundary. So part of your self-care is understanding what you can handle, what you can't, and the conversation about individual therapy or even group therapy is there. Think about what your comfort level is in sharing. Now, girlfriend sharing is great. Parent sharing, meet other parents. Autism Sharing and Parenting is an organization in Philadelphia where you can meet other parents who have loved ones on the spectrum. but consider that you may need or look into individual therapy to make sure that you take care of yourself. That also goes with your adult relationships. And I saw your finger, so there's two other things I want to mention. And then if I can share resources at the end, I can do that, or I can share resources now. It is very important in terms of what you do for yourself to take time, whether that's getting your nails done, your hair done, some time for you, lighting a candle, closing the door in the bathroom if you can, but also your affairs in terms of your financial affairs and your last will and testament. Nobody wants to talk about that, but we are not going to live forever. And we need to make sure that our affairs are in order for not only yourself and your peace of mind, but for the care of your loved one moving forward. And one last thing I'll say is, even as you talk to other of your parents or other friends who have loved ones on the spectrum, find another parent who has a child who may be older than you, who may be your mentor, if you will, and talk with a parent who has a child younger than yours, for whom you can share and be a mentor to them. So with that, I'll stop because it's 7:41 and ask if there are any questions, or if you want to take questions toward the end.
We can take some questions now. If folks have questions, the chat is also open, so feel free to use the chat. And Sabra, do you have the resources available to place in the chat?
While I can do that when the next speaker's up, but I can also share briefly. I had some things prepared.
Thank you.
So I can pull that up. The piece that I mentioned, share again, share. There we go. Share. Here it is. Okay. The piece that I spoke about stress, and I try to make sure that my references come from, national reputable organizations. This is a National Library of Medicine. I can put the link in the chat. Stress in Parents of Children with Autism. That's a literature review. The other resource, let's see, can I move that out the way? You can tell me the comment. Someone said Sora Green had a comment.
Hi, Ms. Townsend.
Sure.
Thank you so much for coming on this evening. My name is Sharon Barkley. I wanted to let you know, when I heard you say that your son went to Hill Freeman, my mind automatically went to my mother, who happens to be on the call tonight. And she worked with your son, Brandon. Her name, she said, she texted me and said Brandon called me Miss Debbie, and Mr. Journey was his teacher.
Yay! There are no coincidences. Thank you. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for caring and loving my child. He had a wonderful experience there. I did have to engage with some attorneys, but it didn't have anything to do with Hill Friedman. I have another resource on the screen. This actually happens, full disclosure, this is where I work, the Jefferson Center for Autism and Neurodiversity, and I can put that link in the chat. But I wanted to share briefly that there are some resources. That's me. There's some where's the resource page? There we go. There's some resources that are called visual stories. And you can do primary care. I won't go through all of them, but a telehealth visit, a breast health visit, women's health. We create visual stories, and if you don't know what a visual story is, the name pretty much describes it. It is a description, for instance, of a primary care visit that shows what an office might look like, what you might go through with a visit, because often people on the spectrum may get anxious about places that they've never been. And we customize visual. That's one of many things that we do. A Pennsylvania state resource is called Autism Connection of Pennsylvania. I strongly suggest that you sign up for their, go on the website and sign up for their newsletter. There it is, subscribe to their newsletter, provides excellent information. And then the last resource that I have is this video. It's long. It's about an hour long, but it gives you excellent tips and hints around self-care, the boundaries, removing yourself from toxic relationships, knowing your limits rather. I wish someone would come and clean my house. Go for a long walk. It's an excellent, it's available on YouTube. It's an excellent video. The importance of self-care, parents and caregivers, the importance of self-care. And then locally, autism sharing and parenting. Renee Henderson, who Rosalind Green connected with to get my contact information, is the founder of Autism Sharing and Parenting. We have, well, prior to the pandemic, which I can't believe is 3 years ago now, we met face to face, and we bring in presenters to present on practical topics like this. We've done them on sexuality. We've done them on therapies. We've done them on medical care, employment, any topic that's housing, that's out there. We've done those topics. So you can reach out to me directly, and I'm more than happy to put my email contact information in the chat for if you're interested in autism sharing and parenting. And so with that, I will say thank you. If there's any other questions, let me know, and I'll stop sharing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of information. And for our participants, please check the chat. As Sabra was speaking, I did lift up some of the websites and titles of the resources she mentioned. So feel free to look in the chat to make sure that you have those.
And Roz, you know what I can do that would be, I think, helpful? I'm going to make an assumption that you have an email list or some way to reach folks.
Yes.
I can send an email to you with resources and more, the ones that I shared and others that I can share with you, and you can feel free to distribute that.
I sure
I'm
will.
more than happy
Thank
to
you
do that.
very much.
You're
Please
welcome.
email me, and I will make sure that all of our participants have those resources. Thank you
Sure,
very
absolutely.
much.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to turn my camera off and listen to Carla.
So at this time, our second speaker will begin. Again, she is Carla Glover. Carla, welcome. And I'm going to share screen for you with your item.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to say thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. I've done this presentation, a similar one for Roz's staff at her school a little while ago, over winter break, I believe it was. Pretty much is why the title is Winter Break Self-Care. And I'm going to overlap just a teeny bit with some of what Sabra had to say to you around self-care. But the tips that I'll be giving you will be for all caregivers. If you're a caregiver of a parent, elderly family member, a child. My mom is 94, and my sister and I are her caregivers. So, you know, we take care of her, we split the time. So a lot of these tips come in handy. And under each topic, there are 5 topics: mental, emotional, environmental, physical, and social. And I can say that I participate in at least one in some of the topics, some of the headings, even more than one. I participate in personally myself. And I'm sure there are things on here that you do. And if you don't, maybe you should or would like to do. Under the mental topic section, there I heard Sabre mention meditation. If that's something you can partake in and would like to partake in, guided meditation is something good for caregivers to participate in. Deep breathing exercises, I definitely participate in that one. So that brain dump my to-do list. Sometimes you just have to forget about your to-do list and keep it moving, because sometimes a to-do list can stress you out, even a little bit more. Um, I read affirmations every day, saying them out loud. I post them in different parts of the house, the bathroom, my refrigerator. So that's a good way to take care of yourself. And journal for 5 minutes before bed. So I don't journal before bed, but I do journal. And what I journal would probably go under the physical side. I journal my meals because that works for me. I need to see what I'm consuming food wise daily, and that helps me try to eat more healthy on a regular basis. So I use journaling my food as a self-care method. Emotionally, I do listen to podcasts. Not all are inspirational podcasts, but as Roz mentioned earlier, I'm a huge sports fan. So it helps me to listen to sports podcasts. I definitely listen to soothing music, and for much more than 10 minutes a day. So I try to do that more than 10 minutes. List the things you're grateful for. I try to do that daily, whether it's in the first thing in the morning or the last thing before I go to bed. Think of things that I'm definitely grateful for. Have that one friend, and you're lucky if you have more than one that you can talk to, a trusted friend. Honestly, say whatever it is on your mind, not be judged. If we all have that one friend, that's perfect. Keep a mood log for a week. That's something I've never done, but I'm sure that could be good. To note what triggers you, what makes your mood fluctuate up and down if you change moods often. But I think people who tend to be caregivers, yeah, your moods often go up and down depending on the situation. So it might work to keep a mood log so you can find out what those triggers may be. Then there are some environmental self-care tips. That's at the bottom of the page here, Roz. Yeah, that's it. So declutter my workspace. Yep, I should do that often. Even though I'm retired from the school district, I still, work part-time with Arcadia University. And it's so funny because I have my screen tilted right now, so you won't see my entire office. And I found out, oh, well, I can blur the background and they won't see all of these books and everything I have all over the place. So I really need to take some time to declutter my workspace, um, clean out my fridge and pantry. So I plan to do that in December. And I didn't get it done in December because I had too many people visiting from California. However, that's the first thing I did after the new year. I cleaned out the fridge. Boy, you wouldn't believe some of the things I had in my pantry. But I felt so good once I cleared that stuff out. It made a huge difference. I felt marvelous. Um, Add a cheerful decoration to my office. That probably won't happen anytime soon, but that might work for you if you can do that. Attend a fun event. Well, Rise knows me, and I try to do that once a month. I try to attend a fun event. As she mentioned, I just got back from the Super Bowl yesterday. So I try to do something. And I'm lucky to be able to do a fun event once a month because I have a sister that we work well together, taking care of our 94-year-old mother. So we're able to, bounce off of each other and do things of that nature. Create an uplifting music playlist. I was just looking at my playlist before I got on today, and I have all kinds of. I name, of course, all my playlists. I have an oldies playlist. I have a jazz playlist, a low impact aerobics playlist, a
Mm.
praise playlist, a playlist that I call Tough Times. In fact, I have a playlist that's called Tough Times number one and Tough Times number two. I have a playlist that work it out when I really want to get a good workout in. I have a playlist just for that. I have a playlist that I call housework that I put on when I need and I'm ready to do housework. And once I get started with that playlist, I can probably clean the whole first floor of the house, which is about 5 different rooms. So yeah, so that helps calm me down also. At the top of the list, there's some physical things that we all should do to help us with self-care. I'm lucky enough, I live across the street from a park. So I can take a 15-minute walk and feel comfortable at any time. I've never done yoga on a regular basis, but I hear yoga is a good. I mean, have any of you done or participate in yoga currently? Because you would know if you do how calming that can be. I hear it's a great activity to do for self-care. Play your favorite sports for 30 minutes if you can. So eat 3 healthy meals in one day. I say try that 1 day a week. Pick 1 day a week where you say, every meal that I eat on this particular day will be a healthy meal. So I did that for a couple of months, and Monday was my day. And Monday, I called it Meatless Monday because Whole Foods used to have a day called Meatless Monday, and you could go to their hot bar and it was like a really good price. They don't have it anymore, but they used to have a meatless Monday. So every Monday was my 3 healthy meals in one day. If I don't know if you all subscribe or go on YouTube often, but there's a guy named Paul Eugene, and he does short workouts. African American elderly guy. He's only a few years older than me, put it like that. I'm 61, he's about maybe 65, 66. And he's really good. He does seated aerobics from a chair. He does upper body workouts. He does walking workouts, walking in place workouts from 20 minutes to maybe 45 minutes max. So he has all these different workouts. I highly recommend if you're at home and you have 20 to 30 minutes, it's a good YouTube to watch. And I recommend subscribing to Paul Eugene. There's another one for stretching called Vive Health, Vive. That's a good one for just stretching exercises. In the social area, some things to try to do if your schedule allows you to have lunch with a family member. And maybe once a week would be too much, maybe once a month or every other month. Have a game night with friends. If you can't get out to the game night, maybe host the game night yourself. Call a friend to reconnect. I just reconnected with an old college roommate. And I hadn't talked to her in forever. And when we finally reconnected, it was just like, we were still in college. It was a good connection. And now we communicate like maybe I'm gonna say once a season, and she sends me a letter, a handwritten letter in the mail every January, the first week of the new year, letting me know how her family is doing, what all her adult kids are doing now, and things of that nature. So that was something good that I did, reconnecting with her. So I try to reconnect with people that I totally lost connection with, especially from back in college. Give support and share on social media. So I'm not on social media at all. I'm not on what is it? Facebook, Instagram, X, none of that stuff. But the reason I'm not on it I've listened over the years to a lot of my friends talk about social media, and to me, social media stresses them out. Um, so I'm like, well, why would I want to participate in that? And not only that, I hear a lot of them say, "Oh my God, I was up for 3 hours on TikTok," or I don't. First of all, I don't have that much time to spend. So it seems like once you get hooked on some of these sites, it can take up a lot of your time. So only thing I'm on is LinkedIn, and it was because I pretty much had to with the university. So LinkedIn is about the only thing that I'm currently on, and I don't check it unless I absolutely have to or I need to update something. But social media, I mean, it's good for some. I'm sure it has its positives and it has its negatives, but I'm sure a lot of people can stay in touch with one another and keep up with things using some social media. And the last one I have on this list is send a postcard to a loved one. Write a letter, especially if you have elderly family members and if they're not up on the technology. Send a card. My sister does that with all of our elderly family members. Like every month, she's mailing like 5, 6, 7 cards to some of our older family members because we have a lot of family in the state of California. So, that's just something to do. And she feels good doing it, and it makes them feel good to receive it. Trying to think what else here did I want to add. I told you about the YouTube sites, Vive Health and Paul Eugene. And I think that's it. So, I didn't mind Sabre taking up that extra time because I knew I wasn't going to have to take up much extra time. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. And thanks, Roz, for putting that in the chat.
Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely. And thank you for your information because that gives us some right there things that we could do immediately, some things to think about. I saw some things on the list that I used to do that I probably need to get back to for my self-care. So thank you very much.
Roz, I have a quick resource two things I can share quickly.
Okay.
That I would share screen
Please.
to do that. Sure. So one is a phone app called Delightful, and it's a gratitude journal. It's free. I don't download apps that aren't free. And it's a little fuzzy here, but I have it set up to pop up on my phone at 7 o'clock every evening. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. But if you notice, it gives you prompts. It gives you some questions. So, for instance, the last one that I did, the question was, "What has been going well in your life lately?" And you just type in the answer. Share about someone special. You type in your answer. What did you achieve today? And you know what I wrote on that one? I'll share. I rested because rest is essential. Now, when Brandon was 4 and I named him, I had a name, it flew out of my head right now, but I had to carry, if I carried a pocketbook, it needed to be a shoulder bag because I needed a hand free to snatch him. So I wouldn't have been resting when he was 5, but that was my answer for what I achieved that day. So the Delightful is a free app that you can set up to show up to be grateful for the things that you have. And then the other, I just wanted to share, particularly Carla, since you mentioned being a sports fan, is the concept of presuming competence, not only with yourself, but with your loved one. And for that, I'll share. Wait, stop share. Hang on, because I got to click that button. Share sound. There we go. All right, might look familiar. That's me. That's my Brandon. Okay, so who am I?
You seem talented.
Okay, so what is tomorrow?
My birthday.
And how old will you be?
23.
All right, so can you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Brandon
Slow
Hubbard.
down.
Hello, my name is Brandon Hubbard. I'm 23 years old. I graduated from Hill Friedman. And my favorite color is red.
And who's your favorite sports team?
Green.
The
Eagles.
spell it.
EAGLES. Eagles.
So, to the point of presuming competence, not only with yourself, but with your loved one.
Mhm.
Kindergarten. Brandon came home. I thought he was just playing with my hands, just patty cake or whatever. Come to find out that someone in his school taught him American Sign Language.
That's great.
And at the time, he was not verbal. Now, you heard him being verbal there. You heard that prosody, that kind of sing-songiness, but he was verbal. That happens to be a characteristic of some autistic people. He got a voice deep as Barry White, but sometimes when he talks, it's very sing-songy. But did you notice when he did the Eagles? Did you notice what he did? He signed it. I didn't know he could sign. And some of what he did when he was introducing himself was a slang. There's just like there's African American slang. There's actually American Sign Language in the African American deaf community that he did some of. Not all. Some of it was hand motion. Some of it was American Sign Language in an Afrocentric or slang version. So presume competence of what you do for your loved one and what your loved one is capable of doing. I think sometimes we assume that just because someone is autistic, that they can't do certain things. Let them show you what they can do.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Renee, for sharing that. And to both of our speakers, I was looking forward to us coming together tonight to hear what self-care looks like. And I appreciate you both. Thank you for the time that you have given us. It was absolutely awesome. And if you have any comments or if you need to ask something and you don't want to unmute at this time, I am going to ask you to please use the chat feature. So we are looking at the chat to make sure that we are capturing all of the comments or the questions that need to be asked. I still have added some additional resources as Saber was speaking, and I also added Carla's resource that she shared with us, because I know sometimes it helps if we have that list right in front of us. So everything should be in the chat. I want to thank both of our presenters who were absolutely awesome. Thank you for your energy, really planning and working with me to make sure that we could reach a wider scope, because caregiving is not only for folks or parents who take care of people on the spectrum, but it is for everyone. So hopefully everyone has lifted something up that they can take and implement for themselves. At this time, we are going to have our raffle. We are going to spin that wheel.